Okay. All right. We are live. Unmuted episode number 4 with Meghan Speer. Happy Friday, everyone.
Hey.
Welcome, Meghan.
Yay. So excited to be here. Thanks, Paige.
I know. I'm really excited you're here too. We were just talking about how we've been so lucky to spend a lot of time together this week.
Yes. For two people who've never met in person, we have spent a lot of time this week.
I know. For
So
folks
good.
for folks who weren't able to tune in on Wednesday, Meghan and I did a panel Tuesday afternoon on Giving Tuesday, which was a lot of fun with 2 other amazing consultants. And then we recorded a podcast earlier in the day, which was really great. Love talking about team building and trust building. So that was a lot of fun. But here today, we're here to talk about you, which will be exciting. And I even said that on Wednesday. I was like, you need to talk more about you and how amazing you are.
Well, I feel like a really big buildup.
No, you're talking about. Please stop. And before we dive in, I should say to folks that are listening and tuning in, drop your name and where you're tuning in from in the chat. It's always fun to see where folks are at.
Yeah.
We had a few folks from Canada last time. I think we had some folks from Canada when we were together on Wednesday, or maybe it was another time.
Yeah, we had a couple in the chat on the webinar.
Yeah, awesome. But anyway, so today we're here for Unmuted episode 4. I'm Paige, your host. I'm also the founder and chief strategist. Thank you, Meghan. I know, I love that. Of a social impact consulting firm called Page Capacity Builders. I've been doing this work for 18 years and I've had this firm for 11, and I've met some pretty incredible women along the way, and Meghan included. And they inspired me to do and create this space Unmuted so that their amazingness and incredibleness can be lifted up, and really just have a space for people to connect with them. So if you have questions too for Meghan, put them in the chat. We can see it and we can talk about those as well if anybody has questions. So Meghan, I'm going to turn it over to you. Why don't you share a little bit about yourself and tell us, who you are and kind of a little bit about the Nonprofit Hub too.
Yeah, absolutely. So thank you for having me, Paige. I'm excited to be here. And my name is Meghan Speer. I'm the executive director at Nonprofit Hub. The way I like to explain it is that Nonprofit Hub is a nonprofit for the people who run nonprofits, right? So often I feel like those folks don't necessarily have someone who's caring for them. But that work is hard and there's a lot to keep track of and stay on top of. So Nonprofit Hub really works with a lot of founders and executive directors and senior level folks around the areas of board development and HR and finance and fundraising and marketing and all of those skills that no one really teaches you when you are running a nonprofit because you're so focused on running the thing. So that's where we come in to kind of help and support and do education around that. I am born and raised in Pittsburgh. Black and gold. Here we go, Steelers. Although last night was not maybe our night. But it's fine. We won't talk about it.
Ravens fan, but I'm also not the biggest sports person. So
okay, yeah. So black and gold. And yeah, I live in Pittsburgh's north side. And yeah, love living in the city and being a part of this community here.
Awesome. Well, let's dive in.
Yeah, and we've got Pittsburgh in the chat too. I saw Joe jump in. So
oh yeah, Joe from Pittsburgh, love that. Oh, we have someone, Paula from St. Louis. I went out to St. Louis about 2 years ago. It is so beautiful out there.
Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I have some friends that run a nonprofit called Connections to Success. Paula, I'm not sure if you're familiar, but they are an incredible organization and they do some really incredible work out there, and beautiful in St. Louis. So let's dive into our first question. Got some leadership focused questions. Okay, so number 1, what inner knowing, or maybe it was a mindset shift you had that most shapes the way you lead today?
Yeah. So I love this question, and I'm going to share just like a little bit of my background of what got me to that moment. I had been with a company for about 8 years, and when the founder and the owner of the company decided that he was gonna retire, and, so I took on a business partner, and he and I took over the business, and I was running it as CEO. So when I say things like, "I was the CEO of a marketing company before I turned 40," right? That sounds really impressive, but what you need to know is that I hated it.
Mm,
Right? I never should have been in that role. The any role that's focused on budgets and spreadsheets and analytics and reports and all of the back up, like that is just not me. It's not my strength, it's not my giftedness. But when someone says to you, here's a company that you should run, right? You tend to say yes, of course. Absolutely. This is an amazing opportunity and I'm so excited for it. Um and so I had a shift in mindset, I would say in like in the January of 2020, right before the whole world fell apart, where I sat down with my business partner and I was like, look, I hate this and I would like to leave and not work here anymore. And he was like, yeah, well, that's not going to happen. So we just need to figure out how to put you in a better space, that's going to be a better fit for you. And we can move forward. And I had this epiphany as all of that was happening about what it means to actually lead from our giftedness instead
mm,
of from like this place where we think we should be, right? We say yes because opportunity is amazing and we never want to turn down, but that's what leads to burnout. That's what leads to me not being an effective leader because I am trying to do things I'm not great at. And it's just wasting my time and it's wasting everyone else's time. And so that was the biggest shift for me. And I feel like I've spent then the last 5 years leading from a place where I put my gift, like I'm leading from my giftedness and I say no to things that I would have said yes to before because it's what's better for me and therefore trickle down to what's best for the team underneath me.
mhm,
Um, where I feel like I spent the first half of my career saying yes to everything
mhm.
and then constantly getting burnt out in it. Uh, and not being an effective leader in it either, which is not helpful for anybody that was working for me.
Yeah, you so often hear like needing to be in your genius zone,
Yeah.
doing things that really bring you joy. And I think sometimes people feel like it's very woo-woo, like, oh, isn't that nice if you're able to do that?
Yeah.
But I think we need to shift that thinking into more of it's not a nice to have, it's actually a really strong strategy, approach to even your own personal or self-professional development,
Yes.
um, yeah,
I I'm a big believer in, I don't know if you've done the strengths finders,
yeah,
right? So the strength finders looks at like, here's your top 5, your top 10. And that's not to say that the other areas aren't good, right? But what would happen if everyone on our team, including ourselves, was functioning from a place of using their strengths? Right? How much less time would we waste? How much more efficient would we be? How much more fulfilled would we be in that work if we could function from that spot instead of all of the energy it takes to try and do something I'm not great at?
yeah. I think
Right?
too, the other part to that is it's hard to say no. There's a stigma
Yes.
around that. And there's
Yes.
a stigma to say, I'm not really good at that's not my strength.
Yes.
I think some of that's shifting though. I mean, what are your thoughts?
I
These
would like to think so. And I think specifically, especially since we're on unmuted, and I'm gonna time out for a shout out to Michael Thornhill. Thank you for
I know,
pouring
I've
out that
seen
love in
him.
the chat. He's the best.
Beautiful. I know, I
Just the
want to know
best.
who Michael Thornhill is. He's a
Ugh,
big fan of
one
Tracy.
of my favorite humans. Way to be
Wonderful.
here, Michael Thornhill. I love you. Um, but here's what I think. I think as women, especially, we're so conditioned that when an opportunity is presented to us, we have to say yes, no matter what, because we don't know when another one's going to come around,
Yeah,
or we don't want to be the girl that was difficult,
yeah.
or we don't want to play
Act
into any of
up
those.
something.
Yeah, and we those expectations that we hold. Um, and so yeah, I do think, especially as women, we're like conditioned to say yes
Mhm.
to whatever is offered because, well, maybe it won't come around again, or I should be grateful no matter what. Um, Instead of saying, you know what, this is not for me. This
Yeah.
is not the work that I am intended to do. It's not how I am gifted. It's not how I was created. It's not what I'm passionate about. And so I'm going to wait and hold off and live in the passion and zone instead.
Yeah, it does really unlock incredible things.
Yeah.
I can say that too for myself in my life. And, even more recently in my life in the past 5 years, there's been more of those ahas with, unlocking that genius zone and really
Yes.
leaning, maybe not that you can't even do the other things. Maybe you just don't have the time.
Right.
Right. And it's like, well, I don't have all the time and I'd rather be doing this. Not that I can't do that, but I can offload these other things. Yeah, the art of delegation as well. Right?
Yes, absolutely. Right.
Ah,
Because yes, I could spend 2 hours figuring out this budget problem.
right.
Or I could
Right.
hand it to my finance person who I trust and know is going to answer it in 2 minutes, and I can use that time to do things that are going to move the organization forward, right? Which is ultimately my job.
Exactly. Yeah, leaning into that space. I
Yeah.
love it.
So good.
Okay, so our second question.
Yes.
What risk have you taken that has changed everything for you? Just think of one.
Oh
If
man,
you have one.
there's so many.
Yeah, and what gave you the courage to take it?
Yeah. So I think for me, one of the career wise, as I look back at like my career path and where I jumped and hopped and how roles were created and built for me, one of the biggest risks for me actually was leaving from Marketing Support Network and stepping out of that marketing company to focus on Nonprofit Hub.
Okay.
It was a move that I think a lot of people didn't necessarily understand and still maybe have some questions about. But I had a really great career at MSN. I still am affiliated, still love the team there. But I had risen to CEO and
Mhm.
then stepped back to vice president and then was stepping out. And so it seemed like a weird career trajectory, I feel like, to a lot of folks. And one of the things that I really struggled with, and then we'll talk about the risk, is what that perception was going to be.
Mm, right.
Right. I struggled with it when I stepped out of the CEO role and back to vice president. Like, okay, well, what's that? What does that say about me? Does it mean that I can't hack it? What are people going to think? What's that reputation?
Yeah.
And then again, when I was stepping out of that to take executive director over at Nonprofit Hub, um, I think so much of that risk is around perception. And part of what I had to realize is that people don't actually care. Or maybe they do, but they're not thinking about me nearly as often as I think they are.
Uh-huh.
Right? Nobody's sitting around in their kitchen in the morning being like, that Meghan, I really don't know what she's doing with her life. I don't know. Right? Nobody is thinking about that. Um, and so I think the risk for me was in perception
Mhm.
and reputation. Um, but what's come from it and the reward, I would say, of it is
Mhm.
living a life that I am super fulfilled by and super passionate about and doing work that I love.
Yeah.
Great, right?
Yeah.
Everyone else's opinions shouldn't get away in there, right? That doesn't matter as much as me making sure that I am passionate and fulfilled in my life, right? That's who I have a responsibility to, not everyone else.
Yeah.
And so I think that's been the kind of the lesson that has come out of there, and the reward that has come out of taking the risk to do what was right for me. Uh, Everyone else's opinions, whatever, right?
They don't really
So
matter.
no, and it's been a really interesting. It's honestly, it has led to some really interesting conversations.
Mhm.
Um, but yeah, it's been super fun and super rewarding.
Yeah. Did you did you have that point of aha with what like that challenge was, the perception piece, when you started to feel the joy and happiness like consistently in your life? Um,
Yeah, actually, so there's a conference that we go to every year. I've been going for probably 15 years at this point, within the industry. And I was there this year, back in February, and I was talking to one of our one of our partners that I hadn't seen since the conference the previous year.
mhm.
And we were sitting at coffee, and halfway through, he goes, "Can I just ask what happened to you?" And I said, what do you mean what happened to me? Nothing happened to me. I'm good. He's like, no, you're not the same person that you were. And I said, what do you mean by that? He said, last year we sat at this conference and I walked away from our meeting being like, oof, Meghan is just not herself. Something's up. She doesn't look happy. She looks really tired. She's just not it. And he was like, the person that is sitting across from you right now is totally different
Wow.
than who you were a year ago. What happened? And so even just that, and I had only been in the role at that point for a month. Doing it full time. Yeah. So it was funny to hear somebody just be able to visibly see like,
yeah,
you're a whole lot happier. You're a whole lot brighter than you were. Because it makes a big difference.
Yeah.
Makes a huge difference. And he was one of the people that I was like, oh, I really hope, I don't know what they're going to think. Maybe this is not what I was supposed to do. And so just that reinforcement of like, man, I'm so proud of you. I'm so excited for you that you're now in this happier zone. That's great. Really was a huge affirmation for me.
Wow. I'm sure. I bet you were like, never going to do that. I'm not going to let that color, my decision making, or even just like keeping us up at night. Goodness. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Perception can influence so much. So it can feel like such a risk. That is so courageous that you just were like, no, I'm doing this.
Nope, I'm doing this. So and I think you put this in my bio, but during the pandemic, other people were like baking bread and growing plants. And I do not like either of those things. I don't do dirt. I'm not good in the kitchen. Like these are not
like, wait, you don't like bread? How can you not like bread?
Well, I like the product of bread. I don't want to be a part of making it. Like they sell it at the store. It's super easy. You just go there and buy it. It's so easy. But I ended up writing a book. That was my pandemic project.
I saw that.
And it's called Letting Go of Should, and it kind of builds around this whole theme of, we all live with those expectations of what we should be doing and who we should be. And when you can let go of that a little bit. Now, I would love to tell you that like I wrote the book on it, and so now I'm an expert. No, it took like another 5 years before I finally was able to really embrace where I was supposed to be. But it's funny when I started to look through the lens of all of the seasons of my life where I let other people's expectations and what society thought I should be doing, when I let that lead, I was miserable. But when I was living into my giftedness and my strengths and being who I was created to be, that's when I was the happiest and the most fulfilled. And so it was really a hard look at like, here's all the times where I've proven this way doesn't work. And so now we're going to try this other option and live into that. And it's been amazing.
You need to write another book on like the other side.
Yeah.
The other side of should.
Yes.
That's incredible. I love that. And what like great advice, because it's all like the shoulda, coulda, woulda. But it's hard to let it go, even when you have written a book, right?
Yes. Even I would love to say that I'm now the expert and I will never, struggle with other people's expectations ever again. And that's just not reality, right? That's always going to be, those expectations are always going to be there. But I feel like it's such a good groundwork for like rooting back to myself to say, this is not what's going to make you happy. And this is not what's going to make you fulfilled. And when I am happy and fulfilled, I'm a better leader. I'm a better boss. I'm a better, I'm a better human. Right? Yeah, I'm just a better human. And so why wouldn't I want that both for me and for the people around me?
Yeah. I do that. I have those conversations with folks when I'm coaching them in career transition. And oftentimes we see like the title or the number associated with their role. And it's like, I'm going to do that. And it's like, no, you've been sharing over the past several months that these types of, different types of work don't bring you joy, that you do not like doing these things. And that's what this is, and I think sometimes we get so distracted, almost like that glittery, shiny thing over in the corner almost. And it's like, and employment, right? We feel it's urgent. But you'd be amazed at the doors and windows and spaces that just pop open and make themselves available to you when you make yourself available to them.
Yes.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love
So
that.
good.
All right, our last question, which I feel like this is a great segue because I feel like you talked about something that could be potentially this, which is
Okay.
what's something, you were taught about leadership or within leadership that you've chosen to unlearn?
Mm. Okay, so I saw this question and I immediately had an answer when you sent it over. Um, and I'm so I had a mentor probably 18, 19 years ago now, at like 3 jobs ago. And one of the things that she said to me as I was moving into some higher leadership, exec level, C-suite kind of opportunities, um, and she has lived there for the majority of her career as well.
Mm,
Um, and one of the things that she said to me was, I have, and it's her speaking. She said, I have garnered a reputation for myself of being the least emotional one in the boardroom.
mm,
She said, I am often the only woman at the table or the only woman in the room. And so I have made sure that I am always the least emotional one, because when you get emotional, people don't listen to you.
mm.
They just write you off. And she's like, the guys can get emotional, they can get mad, they can get whatever, and everybody just calls it passion. But when you do it, you're going to be difficult. And so learn now to like quelch those emotions,
Yeah.
squash them down, and be as level and steady as possible. And I took that with me at first, and then I had to spend a long time unlearning it.
Mm-hmm.
Um because it does a disservice, I think, to who we are as people when we feel like we have to manage those emotions, and when we feel like we have to not bring our full selves to a discussion. If
Mm-hmm.
we're talking about something that's super important in the life of the organization, I'm going to have some passion and feelings about that.
Mm-hmm.
And if I come in and just stay level and even keeled the whole time and don't bring my passion, then nobody's going to know.
Mm-hmm.
Right. So I took that advice, I would say, for probably too long.
Right.
Right. Where I was like, okay, super stoic,
Yeah.
I'm not going to be the one, right, that's overly emotional about anything. But that's not who I am as a person. There's a
Yeah.
really great sketch or clip. I'm sure you've probably seen it. Kristen Bell was on Ellen, and she was
Mhm.
talking about when Dax Shepard surprised her with a sloth for her birthday. It's a hilarious clip. I really do recommend going to watch it because it's
I
just
have
super
to
funny.
see this now.
But she talks about the fact that, like, if she's not between a 5 and a 7 on the emotional scale, she's crying. Like, too happy, too sad, too angry, too whatever. Like, that's just her reaction. And that's me as a human.
Mm-hmm.
When I am excited, my eyes well up, right? It's
Mm-hmm.
just who I am. And so to try and squash that and not bring my full self into a discussion about something that deserves that passion, it took me a while to unlearn it and realize that maybe my mentor didn't have it all right on the nose there.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I love her dearly.
Yes.
I'm super thankful for all that she has done for me in my
Yeah.
career. But I did have to unlearn that one, and if I could pass it along to any other woman that's coming up in that cycle, who's finding themselves as the only woman in the room or maybe in a different context, it's okay to bring passion and emotion when it's, I'm not saying I want you to cry at the drop of a hat because your feelings got hurt, right? At some point we we do have to be professional.
Boundaries.
Right, there's boundaries certainly to be held, but also you are a full holistic human, and that includes passions and emotions, and it's okay for people to see that in you. It's not something that you have to hold back to be able to advance.
Yeah, yeah. And I would say too, to just like add to that, Megan, that if you find yourself crying easily when, your feelings get hurt,
Yeah,
and I put that in quotes because that means something different for everybody,
sure.
um, that's something you probably want to like check into
Yeah,
for yourself. If you're overly sensitive to things like, hey, is there something else going on for me?
right.
Um, yeah, because we want to be able to like show our strength in the work we do, but also bring the passion. I think the other part to that is it's difficult to think that there's even the expectation we wouldn't bring that level of passion to work
Yeah,
that has the expectation of commitment.
Yes.
know that working in the social sector brings.
Yeah.
Um, so it's like, yeah, I really care about this.
I really, yeah,
It really
this thing
matters.
matters.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, even like, coming down to a deadline, and people
Yeah.
getting upset, it's because like if something goes unfunded or if a partnership goes unrealized,
Yes.
there are or potentially are people on the end of the line of that are not being fulfilled or having potentially critical needs met. So
Yeah.
yeah,
That's
that's
great.
so relevant. Yeah, and even though sometimes we have to unlearn things from people, it doesn't mean they didn't bring us amazing
Yeah,
other things.
absolutely. No, and I am super grateful. I've had some amazing mentors in my career.
Yeah,
Um, and I'm super grateful for all of the wisdom that they have poured in.
yeah,
Um, but sometimes I think, and that's part of, I think, maybe maturing as a leader is
mhm,
saying like, hey, this piece of advice might have served them well, but it doesn't serve me well. And that's okay because people are different.
yeah,
Um,
and times,
and times are different, right?
this just
The
lies.
world is changing, and that's great. I'm
Yep,
glad for it.
yep, so true. Well, I love this. This
Yeah.
was such a wonderful conversation. I always forget to do this, but I'm not going to forget today because I think it's really good. So that's how you
Oh,
can find
yes.
um, Megan. And this is not a public service announcement, I swear, but I'm a member myself of the
Mhm.
Nonprofit Hub. And I was just telling Megan that I was just looking at the free offerings and was like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I'm not taking advantage of these things. I haven't even dived into the things that I'm like, subscribing to as a member. So I just can't even imagine
Yeah,
all
it's
of this.
so good. I mean, just from a general content perspective, right? We're doing a webinar every Wednesday. We've got a new podcast episode every Friday. The blog comes out every Tuesday. There are constant resources for nonprofit leaders to make
And
sure
these
that
are
you're staying educated on what's going on in the space.
and these are very useful resources. This is not surface level stuff that you can
Yeah.
just find. The other part to it is that this is sourced from expert knowledge. So you can trust that these are tried and true methods or knowledge or research, information, which I think is the other part because you can find things on the internet, but it's like, is this the best way? I don't
Yeah.
know. And so that's, I feel like Nonprofit Hub offers that like level of security and a sense of assurance that, you're getting really good, like
Yes.
credible information, which is just so important. Um, Also, I always forget to say this as well. There's a QR code at the top of your screen. That's just to stay in touch with resources. I myself send out a bunch of resources throughout the month, usually about 3 different times with either funding opportunities, blogs, uh, workshops, connections to other conferences, things like that, research. So just different resources for social sector leaders. Um,
To that end, I'll put a little plug and we can maybe stick it in there.
yeah,
Cause Camp is coming up as a conference in Pittsburgh, November 4th and 5th. There
yeah.
are less than 30 tickets left. So if you have been thinking about wanting to join us for Cause Camp, now is the time to go ahead and get those tickets. But 2 days of amazing, again, those industry experts coming in from all over the country to do some 2-day workshops. Main stage speakers, Inspire speakers. We're really excited about the content for this
Yeah,
year's
and if you
conference.
don't know about it, go to Nonprofit Hub. It's right on their website. You
Yes.
can learn about it. I didn't even know about it until recently because you're doing so many dang things, Megan.
I know. There's
It
so much going
is.
on.
I mean, it's amazing. I love it. So go check out Cause Camp. Thanks for joining us, Megan. Thank you so much.
Yeah, my pleasure. Paige, thank you so much for having me.
Yeah, and we'll see everyone in a few weeks.